Cheating wife filed for divorce, then walked into the courtroom with her lover, laughing until the judge read his assets. I'm going to destroy you in court, Leo. Half of everything you've built will be mine. Those were the last words Sophia Grant whispered to her husband before walking into the courtroom with her lover, confidently with a smile that could cut glass. She had no idea that the man sitting across from her had already orchestrated the most brilliant financial chess move in divorce court history. What happened next will make you question everything you think you know about marriage, money, and revenge. Viewers, what would you do if someone you loved was secretly planning to take everything you'd worked for? How far would you go to protect yourself? Drop your thoughts below. Leo Grant sat in the driver's seat of his work truck, the engine off, staring at the house he no longer recognized. It wasn't the architecture, the modern, angular lines of the lakefront property were the same ones he'd painstakingly overseen during its 18-month construction. It was the light. For years, the warm glow from the windows had meant home. Tonight, the cold, blue-white flicker from the oversized living room television felt like a signal from an alien outpost. A signal he was no longer meant to receive. He knew she was in there. With him. A man named Damon Cole. A luxury lifestyle consultant whose primary expertise, as far as Leo could tell, was appearing in photos on expensive boats and convincing wealthy women that their lives lacked excitement. 18 months. That's how long the affair had been running parallel to Leo's life. 18 months of him pouring concrete, managing crews, and negotiating permits to build the kind of life he thought she wanted, while she was sipping Dom Perignon in hotel suites with a man whose greatest physical exertion was choosing between a polo or a crewneck. Leo's phone buzzed with a text from his foreman, confirming the next day's pour. His hands, calloused and permanently etched with concrete dust, felt clumsy on the sleek screen. These hands had built everything, this house, his business, the life she was so eager to trade in. He didn't confront her that night. He didn't burst in, a cliché of rage and hurt. Instead, he drove to his office, a no-frills warehouse space that smelled of sawdust and coffee, and he began to plan. Not with emotion, but with the same meticulous, step-by-step methodology he used for every complex construction project. Phase 1, assessment. He hired a discreet investigator. The report was comprehensive, expensive, and confirmed his worst suspicions in clinical detail. Photos of them at the Langham. Financial records showing she'd bought Damon a $25,000 watch. Audio clips, gathered from her own cloud sync devices, which she'd never bothered to secure, of her laughing with her sister. Leo's so boring, so solid. Damon makes me feel alive. And once the divorce goes through, solid is going to fund alive for the rest of our lives. Phase 2, foundation. Leo met with his lawyer, Eleanor Vance. She wasn't from a glossy high-rise firm. Her office was in a converted brownstone, and her reputation was that of a legal engineer who built fortresses, not just argued cases. Illinois is a dual classification state, not pure community property, Eleanor began, spreading documents across her massive oak desk. It means we divide marital property equitably. The key is defining what's marital. Leo nodded. And what's not? Eleanor smiled, a thin, sharp thing. Precisely. Tell me about Grant Brothers Construction. It was my father's company. Just him, a beat-up truck, and a dream. He left it to me and my older brother, Marcus, when he died 10 years ago. We were already partners. Before your marriage to Sofia? 5 years before. Eleanor made a note. And the restructuring in 2015? The Grant Family Holdings Trust? Leo leaned forward. After Dad died, the business was vulnerable. Marcus and I saw what happened to other contractors in messy divorces. We spent a year and a small fortune with an estate lawyer. We put the business, the equipment yard, the intellectual property, the guts of everything, into an irrevocable trust. We're the beneficiaries and managers, but we don't personally own the assets. Then we formed Grant Brothers LLC as the operating company. Marcus holds 51%, I hold 49%. All profits flow to the trust, and we take salaries and distributions. Eleanor's eyes gleamed. The house on Lakeshore Drive? Bought with a distribution from the trust. The trust holds the deed. The vehicles? The investment accounts? Company fleet? Trust portfolios? She sat back, steepling her fingers. Leo, what you're describing isn't just asset protection. It's a legal citadel. If these structures were established in good faith before your marriage, and you've meticulously maintained the separation, what's in your personal name? Leo opened his personal banking app and showed her. A checking account with $58,000, his monthly draw from the trust, used for household and personal expenses. A joint savings account with Sofia, containing about $180,000 for taxes and emergencies. His clothes. His tools. So, Eleanor summarized, Sofia believes she's entitled to half of a multi-million-dollar empire. In reality, the empire is owned by a trust and an LLC that predate her. You are, personally, a moderately well-paid employee of that empire. The marital asset pool is essentially the contents of your joint savings account. And her car, Leo added softly. Which I bought her. Generous to a fault, Eleanor murmured. We'll need to document everything. 7 years of tax returns, trust distributions, LLC minutes, property records. We need to show the judge a pattern of clear separation, not a last-minute scramble. For weeks, Leo worked with Eleanor's team after his construction shifts. It was a second, secret job. He felt no thrill, only the grim satisfaction of shoring up a dam before the flood he knew was coming. The flood arrived on a Tuesday. Sofia chose the dinner table, the site of so many silent meals. She was dressed for battle in a tight black dress, her expression one of pained resolve. Leo, we need to talk. We've grown apart. I need more. She slid a thick envelope across the polished teak. I filed for divorce. My lawyer is Robert Gaines. He's very good. I don't want this to be ugly. Just sign, take your fair share, and we can both move on. Leo picked up the envelope. The petition was a masterpiece of avarice. Half the house, half the business valuation, half the investments, spousal support. She'd listed his life's work as line items on a shopping list for her and Damon. He looked at her. He saw the woman he'd loved, but now he also saw the calculation in her eyes, the impatience for him to break down so her narrative of the emotionally neglectful workaholic could begin. Is this because of Damon Cole? He asked, his voice flat. Her mask slipped for a second, shock and fury flashing in her eyes before the practiced woundedness returned. How dare you? This is about us. You're never here. You're married to your job. I'm married to building what you wanted, he corrected quietly. He pushed the envelope back. We'll see what a judge says is fair. Her composure shattered. You stubborn fool. I'll destroy you in court. Gaines will rip you apart. You think you're so smart, but you're just a contractor with a ledger. Half of everything is mine. You'll be living in your truck again when I'm done. Leo stood up. We'll see, he repeated. He walked out, leaving her seething at the table. As he climbed the stairs to the guest room he'd been using for months, he heard her on the phone, her voice a furious whisper. Damon. He won't sign. We're going to Plan B, court. Be ready. Upstairs, Leo looked out at the dark lake. The dam was built. The flood could come. The Cook County Courthouse was a monument to crumbling bureaucracy, but the air in courtroom 604 crackled with modern, expensive tension. Sofia Grant made her entrance like a star arriving at a premiere. A cream-colored Alexander McQueen suit, hair in a flawless chignon, diamond studs glittering. On her arm, like the season's must-have accessory, was Damon Cole. He wore a tailored navy suit and a smirk, patting her hand reassuringly. Their lawyer, Robert Gaines, looked like a magazine ad for aggressive litigation. From the petitioner's table, it was a perfect picture, the wronged, elegant wife and her supportive new partner, facing down the brutish, soon-to-be ex-husband. Leo sat at the respondent's table with Eleanor Vance. He wore a simple, well-fitting suit. Eleanor had a single, organized binder and a tablet. She looked like a librarian about to give a quiet presentation. Judge Margaret Rivera took the bench. She had a reputation for zero tolerance for theatrics and a mind like a steel trap for financial detail. Grant versus Grant, she announced. Petition for dissolution with contested asset division. Mr. Gaines, proceed. Gaines stood, oozing confidence. Your Honor, my client, Sofia Grant, supported her husband's entrepreneurial dreams through 5 years of marriage. She managed their home, their social life, and provided the emotional foundation that allowed Mr. Grant to build his business. Under Illinois law, she is entitled to an equitable share of the marital estate, which we have conservatively valued at $4.2 million. He listed the assets: the lakefront home, Grant Brothers Construction, the vehicle collection, the investment portfolios. He painted Leo as an absent workaholic who had grown wealthy on the backbone of Sofia's silent support. Sofia dabbed at dry eyes. Damon squeezed her shoulder. Judge Rivera turned. Ms. Vance. Eleanor stood. Your Honor, while the narrative is compelling, the financial premise is entirely incorrect. The assets listed are not marital property subject to division. A faint ripple went through the gallery. Gaines scoffed. Your Honor, this is a transparent attempt to hide assets. Mr. Gaines, you'll have your chance, Judge Rivera said coolly. Ms. Vance, evidence. Eleanor approached the bench. I present, first, the Grant Family Holdings Irrevocable Trust, established April 12, 2014. She placed the document in front of the judge. The settlers are the late Frank Grant and his sons, Marcus and Leo Grant. The corpus of the trust includes the land, equipment, and intellectual property that form the foundation of the business. Judge Rivera examined the notarized, time-stamped document. Second, Eleanor continued, placing another sheet down, the operating agreement for Grant Brothers LLC, dated May 3, 2014, showing ownership split: Marcus Grant, 51%, Leo Grant, 49%. All business operations, income, and liabilities flow through this LLC, which is a beneficiary of the trust. She moved with calm precision, a surgeon revealing anatomy. Deed to the house, showing the grantor as the trust. Vehicle registrations under the LLC's commercial fleet. Investment account statements from the trust's portfolio managers. Third, Eleanor said, her voice clear in the dead silent room, bank statements for Mr. Grant's personal checking account, showing regular, monthly distributions from the trust as his sole income. And finally, the joint marital savings account, balance $182,567.44. She placed the last document down and turned to Gaines. The marital estate, Your Honor, consists of the contents of that joint account, the personal effects each party brought into the marriage, and Mrs. Grant's vehicle, which was a gift. The total value is approximately $200,000. Mr. Grant is prepared to equitably divide those marital assets. The silence was profound. Sofia's face had drained of color. Her perfectly composed mask was now a stark canvas of dawning, horrified understanding. Damon's smirk had vanished. He was staring at the documents as if they were written in a foreign language. Gaines was frantically flipping through his own file. Your Honor, I need to review these. This structure is clearly a sham to defraud my client, Counselor, Judge Rivera interrupted, her voice like ice. These documents are dated 5 and 6 years before the marriage. They show consistent, legitimate business and estate planning. Do you have any evidence, that these structures were created in anticipation of this divorce or that funds were improperly transferred? Gaines opened his mouth, then closed it. He had nothing. His entire case was built on the assumption that a contractor wouldn't be sophisticated. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. Judge Rivera spent 20 minutes reviewing the documents, cross-referencing dates. The courtroom waited, the only sound the rustle of paper. Finally, she looked up. The court finds the respondent's documentation credible and conclusive. The trust and LLC structures are valid and predate the marriage. The assets held within them are non-marital property. The petitioner's claims to those assets are denied. She turned to Sofia. Mrs. Grant, you are entitled to one half of the joint savings account, your personal vehicle, and your personal belongings. Spousal support is denied due to the short duration of the marriage and the lack of marital assets. Mr. Gaines, prepare a qualified domestic relations order for the division of the joint account. The gavel fell. It wasn't a bang. It was a soft, final thud that echoed in the total stillness. Sofia sat, utterly frozen. The $2.1 million future she had priced out, the Miami condo, the endless vacations, the life with Damon, had just vaporized. She was left with $91,000 and a car. Damon was already on his feet. He didn't look at her. He muttered, I have to make a call, and walked quickly up the aisle and out of the courtroom, his retreat as swift and silent as a thief in the night. Leo stood. He felt no elation, no desire to gloat. He felt a deep, weary finality. He nodded to Eleanor, gathered his single folder, and walked out. He didn't look back at the woman now sitting alone at the petitioner's table, surrounded by the devastating wreckage of her own greed. In the hallway, Gaines was already on his phone, his voice hushed and angry. Damon was nowhere to be seen. 3 months later, Leo was on a new job site, the foundation for a community center. The smell of wet earth and diesel was familiar, comforting. His brother Marcus brought him coffee, you heard? Marcus asked. Leo nodded. He had. Sofia had moved into a small apartment. The $91,000 was gone, swallowed by first-month rent on a place she could no longer afford, legal bills Gaines was still trying to collect, and the reality of a life without a funding source. Damon Cole had ghosted her entirely, reportedly chasing a new client in Scottsdale. Any regrets? Marcus asked, echoing the question from months before. Leo watched his crew, a well-oiled machine moving in the morning light. He thought of the fortress he and his brother had built, not of stone and steel, but of paper and precedent. It had held. It had protected the legacy their father left and the future they were still building. No, he said, his voice steady. She chose the fantasy. I just made sure she had to live in the real world. Aichi turned back to the blueprints. There was a foundation to pour, a structure to raise. There was always more building to do. And for the first time in a long time, the ground beneath his feet felt solid, honest, and entirely his own. You think Leo overdo it? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting and true-to-life stories.